Hello everyone and welcome along to your immediate post-match reaction to Celtic 2, Rangers 1, and what was a really disappointing day for Rangers. We went into the game feeling like we had a real chance. The worst we wanted to quit with was a draw. We didn't take our chances. We didn't play particularly well in the second half. There's plenty to discuss. I'm joined by Tommy and Ross to kind of break it down a little bit and give our immediate thoughts to it. First of all, Tommy, I'll come to you. What are your immediate thoughts on that game?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Well, obviously a disappointing result. Like you, I thought we had a chance and went in with a little bit of confidence to it as well, that momentum that we'd built up under Philippe Clement. But it's a story of, I think, squads and individual players. Celtic currently have a stronger squad, and certainly up top they've got more quality than we have, and we'll get into that later. So yeah, disappointment all round. It's not a fatality in terms of the title race, but we need to take it on our chin right now. But I think the team, the fans, we'll get into it, know where our problems lie when it comes to the squad.
Yeah, Ross, similar question to yourself. You're quite vocal during that game, I think it's fair to say, as we were watching it. What's your immediate takeaways from that? Was it just a disappointing performance all round? Is it more we played okay first half, but we lost the goal? Second goal was so quick in the second half that you're then chasing your tail, and it is what it is.
I think if you look at the overall performance from Rangers today, I think we've went to Parkhead and played a lot worse than we did today. I think that's probably why I'm the most disappointed I've been in a long time in an Old Firm fixture. I think Rangers had a lot of good chances in that first half and really just didn't capitalise on them. And I think we've watched Rangers enough now over the years that when that pattern seems to emerge, you kind of get the feeling you're going to be punished, than we were. We'll obviously get into the 2 goals, but I think for Celtic, the 2 goals from Celtic, I think overall there was an opportunity there for Rangers to lay a bit of a marker today, make a bit of a statement, and they've not been able to do that. Unfortunately, they've obviously tried to come back at the end there, but it's too late. It's too late. I think that's the best way to put it. So I'm bitterly disappointed today. Actually, it's a sore one. So yeah, well, I can't wait to get stuck into this, Craig.
Yeah, it sounds like you can't wait to get stuck into this. But yeah, let's get started and look at the game overall. We all knew that we wanted to go in, and we've seen plenty of games before where Rangers have gone to Parkhead and sat off Celtic and let them come at us. We didn't do that today. I actually thought we started in a positive manner. We got our foot on the ball. We were passing it about. We seemed fairly confident, apart from Sima. Sima was giving the ball away every single time he got it. But apart from Sima, we seemed to be doing quite well. We just weren't creating very many chances, and that's always the concern. We've praised Cyril Dessers in the last few weeks in terms of how well he's done for us. I think today showed up his limitations, and it was very obvious from early doors. Even against a very weak Celtic backline, we weren't making much headway. And that one weren't a great deal of chances to be made. We were maybe a wee bit slow when we got to the edge of the box, which meant that some chances that could have been there kind of disappeared. But the first real bit of action was actually the goal we conceded in the first half, the Celtic goal. Conceding from a set piece, we already knew it wasn't an area that Celtic are strong in. It's actually an area we are really good at normally in this season, but it was just the ball came in, front post defensive header from Sima. I don't think he had a Celtic player near him, to be fair, when he headed it, but instead of heading it back where it comes, he heads it straight into the middle of the goal, and that's the last place you want it to go. Very good finish from Bernardo, I think it's safe to say, but a really disappointing goal to lose that one, Tom, isn't it?
It is. I mean, listen, that's a long way around the barn. They're saying Sima makes a mistake, right? And it's not to throw Sima under the bus. Right? Generally a good player, but he makes a terrible mistake in terms of get the placement of that header. He can either put it straight out for another corner, he can put it out for a throw-in if he just goes straight back, or he can put it out to the kind of wide angle of the box. He does none of that, and he puts it right into the centre of the box. First to react, much derided Paulo Bernardo of Celtic in terms of his fans. The Celtic fans haven't really warmed to him, and it's a cracking finish. And again, we'll come back to it. The quality of finishes is what's determined the difference of this game, because Rangers had chances. I'm with you in terms of, I thought we got our foot on the ball early. We didn't show the nervousness, and that let's start 5 yards further back than we should, that we have shown in previous seasons. Philippe Clement's been very clear that he wants a high-pressing team. We saw some of the elements of that. Again, it comes down to some of the actors that we have in our team not being able to capitalise on what we've got, and that is absolutely crystallised up top. The story isn't Abdallah Sima in terms of making an individual mistake. That can happen anywhere on the pitch. It's on us not being able to capitalise on the pressure moments that we had, the chances we created, and being able to carry that forward until the very final minute when the captain steps up again. Those are the key discussions.
Yeah, Ross, I think the Abdallah Sima one, it's tricky because it's such a difficult. It's so in the moment. I think it's fair to say that he's just making a split-second decision, but it's so disappointing because it felt like that just took the wind out of our sails immediately. It felt like we were building our way into the game, as Tommy and I have said, but that just took the wind out of our sails immediately. You're on the back foot. They've got a stadium full of their own fans, and it creates that almost that siege mentality side of things. It's just really disappointing all round.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Abdallah Sima didn't start the game well today. I think he had a lot of opportunities to take Johnson on 1v1 and he wasn't able to do so. The one time he was able to beat him, he got Alistair Johnson booked. So I was a bit disappointed with Sima's start. I think that header, that clearance from the corner kind of summed up his start. It was a bit tentative. He just doesn't get enough on it. And I think if your job at the front post there is to make that, you kind of send the ball back where it's came. You're wanting to push it out wide. He sent it into the middle of the box. Tommy made a good point, right? It's a really good finish from Paulo Bernardo. He gets over it. Great technique. It's actually very similar to the Todd Cantwell chance he had at Motherwell last week, where it's a great save from Liam Kelly. It's very similar. So you can't take anything away from the finish, but we've put ourselves in that position. Up until that point, I thought it was quite even between the two teams, but probably Rangers had the better chances. I think that's the best way to put it.
I think so, yeah.
Got into their box a few times and just weren't able to pull the trigger in the right way. And I think that's more disappointing for me today because I've seen this before. I've seen us go to Parkhead and I've seen us create chances and we've just not been able to take them. I seen that early today. So when Celtic got that goal, again, I was going to say they've not really earned it. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but it came from a mistake from ourselves. So I was a little bit gutted in that sense because I thought, well, you've done enough to build yourself into the game. And I know you missed chances, but you've got a bit of control in it. We weren't able to capitalise on that. And yeah, you give Celtic that momentum to go on and kick on. Did they maybe do as much as I expected them to after that goal? Probably not, actually. I probably expected them to have a wee bit more joy. But it's just really disappointing from our perspective. We're not able to capitalise in the moments that are important in these games.
Absolutely, and it's all about being clinical, and it goes back to the point you made, Tommy, as well, about finishing chances, and it's all about taking those chances. And it was emblematic of that. I think we saw symptomatic, emblematic, one of those words. 8 minutes later, Cyril Dessers running through on goal, exactly to the same angle. You can see Ross's face there as he remembers that.
Is that actually what I'm saying there?
You can see Ross's face there as he remembers that chance. Cyril Dessers running through at the exact same angle as he did against Betis, with less opposition facing him. He literally had to run through and go and take a shot past the keeper. He hesitates, he kind of dithers, he slows down, he gives Alistair Johnson the chance to get back, and it's an absolute shocker, Tommy, isn't it? It's almost unforgivable in that sense.
That's entirely the word. There's a guy who we were told, and it's a team game. Okay, absolutely that should be the case, but you're looking for your focal point, your number 9, to make big statements. I want to be the hero before the game. Not a big fan of that type of thing in the lead up to a game and headline writers and stuff like that. But then you get your chance. He does well to pressurise the ball. He's been on a decent run. We've been told that Dessers is a confidence type striker. If he's on a run of games and goals, then he's instinctive and all that. He doesn't look confident getting into the ball. He never really shifts it out. Doesn't shape his body. He allows defender to come from like 25 yards back. Not entirely sure if he gets a shout from Cantwell or not. He's certainly looking at some point to square it to Cantwell, but a striker needs to bear down and go there up against the goalkeeper and just make it stick. He doesn't do any of that. Doesn't get a shot away at all. It's unforgivable when you're looking at your number 9, your central focus, the crystallization of your attacking threat up front. Doesn't do any of that. I think you said earlier, Cyril Dessers today showed his limitations. Cyril Dessers, no matter what he does, is not a Rangers number 9. And that's why you get the likes of Silver, etc., coming in right now. And I wish Cyril Dessers the very, very best, but the bar he'd set is so low that a couple of goals in scrappy games makes you think, oh, we've got something. Betis game maybe aside. But I just don't think it's there with him. And I feel for the guy, actually, because I think the weight of that jersey has overpowered him, and he's never going to quite match up to the expectations that we have.
Just to add to that, Craig, it's a confidence thing, isn't it? You know, if you're a number 9 like that, a central striker, and you're running through on goal.
In theory, though, Ross, he should be confident at this moment in time.
That's my point. We're told he's a confidence player. He's scored goals. He's had a run in the team. He's been given confidence by his manager because he's a starter. If this isn't the confident Cyril Dessers, where is the confident Cyril Dessers? Yeah. By the way, we should also take a moment to say Celtic are a good side as well and played reasonably well in parts, and their 2 finishes were incredibly good. We should be fair-minded with that. But
would we say Celtic are a good side? I don't think either side was particularly good today. I don't think either side was. Both sides are riddled with injuries. We know our own limitations. I don't think either side played particularly well. I do think that the single difference between the 2 teams today was that they can finish.
Well, I think that's a good clarification. What I meant was, in the context of this conversation, this particular point, for everybody, it's a good challenge. Up front, Celtic are better than us, and that's what it came down to. I mean, the Kyogo goal, it's a fantastic finish. Can't take it away from him, right? We should be fair about that. That's the killer moment, because that takes the wind out of the sails. It's 47 minutes or whatever. Philippe Clement will have been in the dressing room showing them images and videos saying, this is where we need to get better. This is what we need to do. Get on top of them in the first 5 minutes in the second half. It kills that, breaks it apart. And that's what it comes down to. And it's not throwing Cyril Dessers alone under the bus. Up top, we weren't really great. You could actually argue middle to top, we weren't great. But the finishes are the difference, and that's why we need to invest in that particular area.
Sorry, Ross, we interrupted your flow there.
No, they were good points. I think what frustrated me about that chance was, and I agree with everything you've said there in confidence, and he should probably have it at this stage. But I think it's abundantly clear he doesn't have it, because I think in that situation as a forward, if you don't have the pace, and he's well aware, Cyril Dessers, that he doesn't have lightning pace, right? You get across your defender as quickly as possible. Because if you get across your man who's tracking back with you, he can't do anything. He's either got to run round the outside of you and try and make a challenge, or he's got to bring you down, right? Cyril Dessers takes too long. He doesn't change his angle of his run. He's running at the same pace. And then he realizes he's into the box. He doesn't have that option for a cutback, and he tries to open his body. It's too late. It's too late.
I felt like he was desperate for the cutback. I felt like he was desperate to pass the ball to Cantwell.
Do you want
give away that responsibility rather than taking on the shot? And you know what? If the goalkeeper saves it, the goalkeeper saves it. But at least you've hit a shot on target, and you've had a chance at scoring a goal.
Yeah. Your job there is to break into the box. And I get your point, Ross. I agree with you, right? And his body shape's terrible. Even with his lack of pace, he's 5 yards from the goalkeeper. Right? He's got to hit that a little bit earlier. He's got more than enough time. He's got more than enough time to shape the pass to Cantwell as well. Listen, all of that's to one side. You're a number 9. You're bearing down on goal. You're 1-0 down at Parkhead. You've already been in the paper saying you want to be the hero. Take the shot. Does it later on in the second half with a terrible angle and fires into the side netting. Yeah. You think that's the time to check back, chop in, try and find somebody at the box, hit the shot early, make the keeper work, see what happens. Doesn't do any of that. I don't think he actually naturally recovered from that moment in the game, to be honest.
Yeah, Ross, sorry, were you going to...
No, just the last thing on that, and I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but probably because the frustration of you really felt we should have scored at that time, right? I just want my striker in that position. The first thought should be, I'm bearing down on goal here. I'm putting it in the back of the net. Now, if he realises once he gets to that point around the box that maybe the angle isn't best and he wants to cut the ball back, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. In fact, I'll give him even more praise at that point if he's done everything right up until that point, and he realizes there's more of a certainty of us scoring here if I cut this ball back. That's fine with me. But it was in his mind as soon as he picked the ball up and he's driving in and goal that he wants to cut back. Well, the Celtic defenders are well aware of that. If we can all see that watching, they're well aware that he wants to cut the ball back. He gave them too much time to get back, and it ended up being a good challenge. So yeah, really disappointing.
Yeah, Ross, I felt we reacted well to going behind, actually. I felt like we continued to build play. We almost took the initiative from that point, and we seemed to be building towards some decent attacks and things like that, but we just didn't create the final chance apart from that Cyril Dessers one that we've just kind of discussed at length. The one moment where the whole living room here was an uproar, I'm sure the living rooms around the country were an uproar, it was the potential penalty that Rangers should have had Alistair Johnson against Sima, just in the sort of left corner of the box beside the byline. And it's very clear that Alistair Johnson, we didn't see it in the first We didn't see it when it first happened live. As soon as the replay happened, it's obvious that Alistair Johnson punches the ball out of play. There's no other way to describe laughing, but there's no other way to describe it. It's obvious that Alistair Johnson punches the ball out of play. I understand the referee on the park not giving it because we didn't see it live and body angles and all that sort of stuff. The fact that VAR wouldn't give it, and yes, they did try and clarify it about 45 minutes later that it may have been offside, but the fact that VAR wouldn't give that penalty, it astounded me at that moment in time.
Oh, trying to keep my cool here. Yeah, I think, look, it's a clear penalty for me. I think Alistair Johnson and Seema are obviously wrestling for the ball, but ultimately Alistair Johnson's arm is in an unnatural position and he punches the ball out of play. I know the panel on Sky Sports today were saying it was accidental. Of course, they also said it was a penalty, so that's not going against them. They're right, it was accidental. The boy didn't mean it, but it's a clear penalty. The secondary point to that is, okay, it might have been offside. That's fine. I think we can all accept that it was a penalty, but it's offside. We would raise our hand at that point and go, yeah, that's fair. The problem was they ruled it wasn't a penalty without offside being involved at that point. They just said it wasn't a penalty. I think most people watching a game of football, take your bias out of it. That's a clear penalty.
I think the real interesting thing as well was, and Ian Crocker clarified it later on in the commentary, was that he said that they can hear Willie Collum and they can hear Willie Collum's discussions. At no point was offside mentioned until the 60th or 65th minute of the game, and they could hear the conversation that was going on between the VAR and the ref. So they would have had clear, if Willie Collum said no, it's not a penalty because it was offside, immediately Ian Crocker and the Sky Sports team are talking about the fact that it's offside. Exactly. That's not what happened, and I think that's a secondary after the fact justification for why it wasn't given. It was incredibly frustrating. It was a stonewall penalty, and when you get Neil Lennon and James McFadden saying that it's a penalty to Rangers, you know it's a stonewaller.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I think it's one of those ones where, yeah, if the offside call comes within the same VAR check, you just accept it and you move on. But ultimately, it didn't, and it was just ruled that it wasn't a penalty, and we were supposed to move on. It then comes in the 60th minute of the game that, oh, look back here, it was an offside. It's a bit too late. You've already ruled that it wasn't a penalty anyway. So yeah, that's really disappointing. I think without going too much into it at this point, I'm sure we'll jump into it. I've just thought the refereeing performance today was abysmal from Nick Walsh. You maybe include the VAR team in that as well with that instance, but I just thought, again, it's another game. And this isn't just because Rangers have lost the game. This is because the refereeing in this country is abysmal. It's really poor, and it's every week. And we've seen it again today. There's numerous calls in that game that just seem to have went against us that I'm not really sure how. So yeah, it's really disappointing.
Yeah, we'll come back to a few of those calls in the second half as well. Tommy, half time, we were 1-0 down, but we were in quite positive spirits, I think it's fair to say. We saw a way back into the game for Rangers. We weren't overly confident that we would be able to take the chances, but we knew we'd create the chances, and that was going to be what the question mark was for the second half. But within 90 seconds of the second half, we concede a second goal, a very, very good finish from Kyogo. I don't think we can take away from that, but it was disappointing how it was defended in the build-up from a Rangers perspective, and to go be 2-0 down at that point, it's a real uphill battle.
Yeah, listen, a fair and complete synopsis there. I thought we could get back into it at half-time. I didn't think there was much between the teams in the first half, other than one chance taken. And then, as you say, you come out, Philippe Clement will have wanted this to be, really front foot, try and put the pressure on. I think the ball comes down the right-hand side. There's a pass that cuts out three players. Then it comes back inside. It goes into Kyogo. I think Goldson could possibly be a little bit tighter, but I'm not blaming him for the finish, which is fantastic. It's the moment of the game, high quality from Kyogo. That's a fair statement. More worrying, Maida's actually free as well, down the inside of the box. He's completely free. And I think most Celtic fans will have been shouting, most Rangers fans will have been shouting, give it to Maida as well. But in terms of the finish, well, he shifts it in, and it's a fantastic finish at a top corner against a top-class goalkeeper in Jack Butland. Can't take anything away from that. That's the moment of quality of the game. That's the moment that I refer to when I say that's the difference. If it had dragged on at 1, we're in it, and anything could have happened. I think 2, it took us a long time to recover belief in that, and that only came when James Tavernier stepped up right at the death, and then it actually became a little bit nervy for them. But that takes all the belief out of us, all the thought process of, right, this is how we build ourselves back into the game. It's a case of, oh, they've done us over. And that comes down to absolute piece of quality up top. Shifts it in, he bangs it in the top corner. That's the difference between the number 9s.
Yeah, Tommy sprinted through the second half there. We'll break it down a wee bit more this one. Tommy's went through it as if he's Usain Bolt, but we'll go back to some of the sort of the key moments in that. I think you're right, Tommy, in terms of we really struggled to react to that second goal. It took the wind out of our sails watching the game. We felt that it was a step too far for us to come back. But there was this when we were discussing it during the game, Ross, we felt that if we did get a goal, probably by the 70th minute, if we got a goal before the 70th minute back, we knew Celtic would be nervy. In the end, we got a goal back in the 88th minute, and Celtic were incredibly nervy for 8 minutes that were added on. But it was a real blow to us at that moment in time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the way we started the second half was really poor. I think Philippe Clement will look at that and really not be happy about it. I think at half time he would have probably sat down with the team and felt, listen, we're behind, but we've done well up until this point. It's something we can build on the second half. I just thought the way that Rangers started the second half just wasn't enough. And it shows that Celtic scored early because we didn't seem to be at the races at all. They came out really looking to kill the game early, and we kind of came out looking to stifle them and not really put any pressure on them. And I don't think that's the way to play in an environment like that, because we didn't play that way in the first half. We should have come out and it should have been more like the first half. We just didn't have enough. Coming back to Tommy's point, it's a great finish from Kyogo. You just have to say it, don't you? He's on the edge of the box. He shifts it onto his left foot, which I believe is a weaker foot, and he's curled it in the top right corner. I mean, it's one of those moments where you just have to kind of hold your hands up, don't you? The first goal, there's a lot of frustration around it because Rangers can do a lot more. I think Rangers could have done more to prevent the second goal based on the kind of overall play. Ultimately, it's a great finish. And I think you would rather get beat in terms of you'd rather lose a goal in that manner rather than the first. So, yeah, I'm trying to be as fair as possible there. It was a poor start to the second half. And I'll be honest with you, I felt it was going to be really tough for us to get back into at that point, just the way that we had performed in that first kind of 15 minutes of the second half.
Yeah, Tommy, Ross touched on a bit earlier about the fact that the refereeing was abysmal today. I just want to touch on a couple of the points, I guess, where as Rangers fans we would feel a bit aggrieved from that performance. I think it's mainly focused on a couple of players. Alistair Johnson and Bernardo were both booked fairly early on in the first half. Both had numerous fouls that would have been yellow cards in any other game, but they weren't given. How frustrating was that for you during the game that the referee was being as lenient as he was in those situations?
Well, yeah, listen, the key players, losing any player, we find that with Balogun later on as well. And I'm trying to take a slower walk through the second half here for you, right? Yeah, listen, the frustration, and it probably not just the Rangers, to every club, is the consistency level. So how many times do you get away with? We always talk about that, or people get away with the first booking. It's early in the game, or you get a talking to, etc., etc. People get to make a couple of fouls. Actually, the more annoying one to me is always that second one, because refs seem to reset the button, or you've respawned, you've had your yellow. Look at me trying to be young saying respawned. I think that's a gaming term. I'm not entirely convinced, right? But you get your first yellow, and then it's right. You get 4 or 5 in the bank to come back, and maybe you get a talking to, and amongst that, maybe not. Chance for your manager to sub you if he really wants to, and then you might focus in on getting a second yellow or a red or whatever, and that's the frustration point. I mean, I think Johnson definitely is in there. You saw Callum McGregor as well putting it about, doesn't get a booking till really late in the game. That seems to be a point. We discussed that in here as well. So yeah, listen, it's frustrating, and we're right to focus on some of that in terms of the impact that it had on the game. Ultimately, though, the referee didn't take this game away from Rangers. I think a little bit of quality from Celtic, and Rangers not being able to match up at the top of the park took it away from Rangers. Right? I don't believe there's a million miles between the squads or the teams, other than what we've already self-identified, which is they've got a little bit of belief and a little bit of additional quality up top, and that's what swung it today. Not the referee, not penalties that could occur or not been given, not 45 minutes later finding out that it's offside when it maybe it may or may not have been, or inconsistencies in the yellows. More interesting concentrating the football, and the football was second half. We sat off at the start. They produced a bit of quality. we didn't get back into a rhythm until near enough the 89th, 90th minute. That's what's cost us today. But improving signs under Philippe Clement. Let's not walk past some of that positivity there as well.
Tommy ending on a rare positive note on his point. Ross, I think the Leon Balogun red card, none of us have any complaints about that. It's ridiculous from Leon Balogun. It's more on his touch than anything else that he takes, and everything after that is a result of that bad touch. And I don't think any of us have any complaints. Would they been better letting Maeda run through and have a shot at goal, or would we head in for 3-0 down and you've still got 11 men in the park? You've got just as much chance as if you're 10 down to 10 men and you've got it's still 2-0. So the disappointing thing, I guess, was that he's suspended for future games, but it kind of was what it was at that stage, and it was just disappointing to see it come to that. I think we've spoken a bit about the squad, and Tommy's spoken at length there about the fact that the quality up top is where the difference was. We ended that game with Ross McCausland, Cyril Dessers and Scott Wright as our front three. If that's not a sign of how much we are in trouble up top at this moment in time, then I don't know what is. This team deserve a lot of credit for how they've taken us through this December. The fact that they've, up until today, had went unbeaten through a lot of tough games. They got us to the top of the Europa League group by winning away in Betis. They won the Viaplay Cup for Rangers, which is a great line in the sand. We're back in the title race. Today, you spoke in the preview about the fact that today wasn't going to be defining in that title race. We are 8 points behind currently with 2 games in hand. If you look at it, potentially a 2-point gap, that's more than surmountable when we've still got half a season left to go. I think we are in a positive place. But the fact that we finished that game with Ross McCausland, Cyril Dessers and Scott Wright as our front three is... I don't even know how to describe it. I was trying to think of a way to describe that. It's just a terrible way for us to be, and it's got to be a real area of focus. And Fabio Silva's obviously signed and dotted the line yesterday, but it's got to be a real area of focus for us as we go through January. Well,
I think it's clear why Fabio Silva's been brought in so early. I mean, the deal has been finalised and we're not even into the window yet, which is pretty rare that a club would come out and announce that signing before the window's actually opened. So it shows you how important Philippe Clement and probably the recruitment team feel that we need bodies up front. In terms of what we finished with today, yeah, look, they're not good enough, and Scott Wright, we've known for a while, isn't good enough. Right, he was very close to leaving in the summer. I think it's quite clear Cyril Dessers is not up to being a starting number 9 for Rangers, even though he's performed well over the last couple of weeks. Ross McCausland, I'll give a bit of a pass. I think he's a young player coming into this. And actually, he wasn't one of the players I would have started today, but I think he actually done pretty well overall, McCausland. I don't think you could pick him out and say that, maybe sometimes people run off him and things like that, but I expect that from young players, right? So I think overall, there's a bit of a worry there for me. Even when you're bringing off a Todd Cantwell, it's a Kieran Dowell coming on to play at that kind of number 10. You've got a Dujon Sterling next to Lundstrom. Again, played well today, but he's not the long-term centre midfielder, is he, for Rangers? Yeah. So we're in a very tricky situation, and it's something we're going to have to address pretty quickly. I've said this before. I think the winter break is going to be really important for Rangers. I think they're going to really look to get a few bodies back in. The only thing that gives me a bad doubt about that is I think I've said this for the last 2 or 3 years now, that this winter break is going to be really important for Rangers, and it never seems to actually materialise.
It tends to go the other way than a positive way. It tends to go the negative way, which I think is the cycle we need to get out of. And it's I think what Philippe Clement really has resting on his shoulders as we go into this. I have confidence in Philippe Clement. I think everything that he's done so far has been really positive, and you can tell that he's taking us in the right direction. It's whether he can take us in the right direction quickly enough to get to the all important league title this year, and then what comes off the back of that one. Tommy, I don't know if you kind of leaned in there as though you had something to add. I don't know if you got a summary point.
I've always got something to add. No, listen, I think there's a couple of things in there actually, just to make additional points, which is Philippe Clement will be looking forward to getting the team into Spain doing the winter camp. We know that the winter window is incredibly important. We also know it's incredibly fraught to try and get people in and out. We've already self-identified, and everybody listening and watching will have self-identified where we need to up our recruitment, Fabio Silva being the start of that. It is just a case of what might be achievable though in that winter window, and so there's a perspective to that. It may be that we have to go with the limitations that we currently bind ourselves in. The problem is, and it's not continually harking back, there was a revamp of the squad under Michael Beale, and unfortunately that revamp has left us not with what we expected, which was a front foot, forward-facing, progressive squad with really, exciting players, but actually really imbalanced squad. Notwithstanding, we've got some injuries, right? Danilo, for example, would have probably started today if he's fit. But now Philippe Clement and Niels Koppen, etc., are going to have to do a little bit of mini surgery in the winter to see if they can get us to push on towards title, because title race is wide open, right? Defeat today is not fatal, right? And we've already won the first trophy of the season. So it's what you can do there. Silva's not the last. And then Clement will see what he can do. To your point about fast enough, the question will be, can he get us there this season? Or is it one, maybe two trophies, not the title? And then what does it look like next season? But ultimately, again, whilst it's still raw and nobody likes to be beaten, right? I'm certainly not making a case for it. Philippe Clement has done an incredibly good job so far. We can all see that it's going in the right direction. He's already won a trophy, and if we win our games in hand, it's 2 points. So, yeah, whilst it's a sore head at the moment, it doesn't mean it's a dark dawn.
Yeah, it's a really disappointing day. Obviously, it's disappointing anytime you lose an Old Firm game. It's disappointing anytime you lose any game, but today especially is disappointing. But as Tommy says there, it's not fatal for Rangers season. And in actual fact, December's been a really positive month for us overall, and we're definitely back in a title race. We've got the Scottish Cup to play for. We're in the last 16 of the Europa League, and there's plenty of positives to look forward to as we move forward through the January transfer window. Hopefully add some quality as we've touched on in there, and then push on from there and start to take hold of this league. Thank you very much to Ross and Tommy for joining us. It's never easy doing this type of podcast straight after the full-time whistle in an Old Firm game that you've lost, but it's cathartic in a way as well. Thank you very much everyone for listening as well. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like on it. It helps us massively. If you've not subscribed to TII YouTube channel as yet, please make sure you do that. Toggle on those notifications, and you'll get a wee alert every single time my video is uploaded or we go live. Thank you very much everyone for listening, and until next time. Good.